Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to the grand finals of the Korean StarCraft League. What I've got for you today is a best of 5 series of Terran versus Protoss. We're in the top right corner in game number 1. Playing of course with the blue Protoss pieces, we have none other than Hero. And his opponent down in the bottom left, playing with the red SCVs. We're looking at ByuN's main command center. Two absolute channel favorites. ByuN, very solid when compared to Hero at the very least. Hero has been looking like an absolute monster in the majority of his games, but then sometimes we look at Hero games and it's just straight up painful. It sort of hurts watching the man perform. Now, luckily for him, you don't really need to put a unit on hold position in the wall off in this matchup. At least it's not as big of an issue, so we get a little bit more wiggle room. Plus, you can focus a ton of attention on microing stalkers and really just trying to reach the pinnacle of Protoss micro. So fingers crossed that we are indeed going to be seeing some of that in this particular series too. I mean, every time I think about the Hero games now, I just keep thinking of that PVZ I recently casted where he was just playing brilliant in the first matches and then it just steadily got worse over time. Anyways, this will be his day to redeem himself, surely. Let's see how it goes. Now, he's going up against ByuN, an absolute micro god as well. So we'll have to see exactly what ended up going down. This is already, though, ByuN being a little bit of a prick. Terran players like doing this, so they built the engineering bay until about 99%, meaning that they can still cancel it. If you finish it, obviously you can't salvage or anything. Can't fly it either in StarCraft 2, but if you can still cancel it right now, you get the majority of your money back, and Protoss is going to have to adjust. Hero seemingly hasn't cared much. His main adjustment here is to make the unit that is spinning around on his main nexus. It'll be one Zealot. But of course, this is going to delay things quite a bit. Now, ironically, yes, you delay the Protoss natural expansion, but you also delay your own natural expansion, because the command center over here inside of the main base that ByuN is currently building is also now delayed because of the investment he made into that engineering bay. So it's one of those things that, yeah, it has advantages, and I feel like this is not a bad spot here for the Terran player whatsoever, but it is one of those things that can be a little bit silly too. I actually think if you're a ladder hero, this is much better than when you play at the absolute highest level like these two. Hero is immediately going to have to play a more flexible game, so he's decided to go for the quick second gas geyser, straight into now the Cyber Core, of course, and then also now the Stargate, all before ever making the natural. And it means that ByuN is effectively playing against a one-base Protoss. Gets a worker kill there too with the Reaper, nicely done. In the meantime though, the Adept has gone across the map, Zealot now sort of following after this. We do have a Nexus building on the low ground too, but obviously you do want to build your command center when it's delayed, especially inside of the main base. So the Adept is not going to be able to do too much. We are going to hit the reactor for a bit. Oracle is coming out on the back of this as well. And of course, Marines are going to be a great weapon against both of the targets for now. Although you do need a little bit more. Cyclone should be coming out here. Yep, there we go. Starport now also on the back of this. And ultimately, the advantage here that ByuN has created for himself is mostly just the timing of that natural expansion. He's now morphing it into an orbital command, but of course, yeah, he does now have to deal with these units, and if somehow, some way, Hero can actually get a snipe on the reactor, that would be massive. Softening up those Marines is also really sweet. Don't lose the Adept, but if you can soften them up, it means that the Oracle that may just jump in a little bit is going to be able to get a good bit of damage done. Command Center, though, is going to attempt flying down to the low ground. Cyclone now available. Marines inside of the main base. Good snipe there on the very first unit, and honestly, so far, expertly managed here by the South Korean Terran player. Can't really find any real mistakes. Yep, reading his opponent like a book. In the meantime, we have that Zealot now taking a bit of damage too. Cyclone doesn't want to chase it all the way towards the top left because you never really know exactly what's going to be on the back of this. Instead, ooh, beautiful catch. Scan as well to continue getting that vision on the Cyclone lock-on. Flawless early game here by ByuN. And that's one of the nice things about going for that engineering bay block. You really do limit the options that Protoss has. So even though maybe in the direct moment, it's not like it's going to create like a massive advantage for you or anything. Maybe the second Oracle can achieve something that the first one couldn't. You don't really get like a massive advantage. Ah, this is also not it, Hero. Nope. Oh, well. Jimmy? Okay, a little awkward. You do get yourself a strategic advantage, because there's just not that many options for the Protoss player to follow it up with. And this one was seemingly countered with ease. Alright, it's only these Stalkers for now. Yeah, other than the Stasis Ward here, this has been a perfect game for ByuN. Can't really find any real mistakes. Second Cyclone now also joining in the fray. Blink is, of course, not yet done. We did have an energy recharge there on the shield battery to try and keep these units alive. Nice pickup control there as well, though, by the Terran player. Those Stalkers, okay, they get locked onto. Ooh, picks him up once more at the last possible moment. Probes are falling now as well. Landed Viking here, putting in some work, retargeted onto one of the Stalkers. Sadly here for ByuN, one of his Cyclones ended up going down, but he is just bullying his opponent with the most basic of basic units. In the meantime, he's got a good eco, he's going into an engineering bay, we'll probably see Stimpak, combat shields, and all the rest of his as well eventually. Hero could certainly stay in this game, but honestly, this is not something that you can very easily come back from. Jimmy over here. Get him, Jimmy! Okay, well, Jimmy does not quite kill Probius here. 1 HP remaining, but this is a disastrous early game for Hero. Quite literally nothing going his way. Well, now you've poked the bear, ByuN. Let's see. Where do we go from here? Problem, of course, for Protoss, your early game in general, you have only a handful of units. And because of that, you need to be very careful controlling them. If you lose your oracles, if you lose a bunch of workers, everything just becomes a disaster. Now, he does have Blink, but there's already a siege tank. There's even 2 siege tanks here. No way, dude. No Prism, no nothing. We can maybe settle for a supply depot. And we can certainly stick in this game. Next line of attack here for Terran is not likely going to be until Stimpak and combat shields are done. Or maybe he'll move out a little bit before that. But this would have to be a monstrous throw right now for ByuN to let this slip out of his hands. We're going into double medevac production here too. Yeah, great stuff here. Don't think you can really complain about a whole lot of things here that ByuN was doing. And this is very much so how StarCraft works, right? If you have one bad misplay early on, the game can just spiral out of control. Now, I do want to compliment Hero here for sticking in this game for a little bit longer. In general, I do think a lot of players do tap out a little too early for my liking. So seeing him stick in his game for a bit longer just to test the waters, I mean, this is a massive deficit, and I really don't believe he's ever going to be able to come back against somebody of ByuN's caliber. But you know what? Mistakes can always be made. He's playing a very greedy follow-up now. Cancels 1 gateway here. Figured he wasn't going to be able to afford full-time production out of all of that anyways. But he's making a lot of workers. He's getting some value here. And of course, Hero is somebody who can clutch games like this out. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but if anybody could do it, I do believe Hero could be the one bringing his back. He will have charge. Charge is a big one. +1 also. He just doesn't have the numbers. That's the issue. If the siege tanks go up in a position that Hero cannot reach, this game is GG. He's hoping here that maybe he can intercept a medevac drop. That's why the Stalkers are chilling over here. Charge is finishing up at the same moment as Stimpak. He needs to delay this push, though. If the push is not delayed, Scan now reveals what's going on. Anti-armor missile as well. Sadly, there for Terran, he did, or for Protoss rather, he did not quite get the Stalkers in the right position at the right time. A couple of units trying to get the wrap around, but already the workers are starting to fall. It's hard to play a perfect game at this level of StarCraft 2, but I think this is as close to a perfect game as you can ever have as Terran, and I mean, it's effectively the perfect way to start a series. GG. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on Whispers of Gold. Not the ideal game there for Hero, but also one that I can sort of excuse. Honestly, margin for error at high-level StarCraft, especially for Protoss, it is very, very small. Protoss in general, I feel like Protoss, then Zerg, and then Terran, incredibly unforgiving. If you make a mistake early on, you lose one of your units. I mean, honestly, you're not really supposed to lose an Oracle until like minute 10 or so, preferably, if you have any say in the matter. If you lose it with the very first engagement, it's just immediately a disaster, and it already didn't really do any damage to begin with. Now, this is a Century First build, which I'm a huge fan of. We've been seeing Sentry First more and more as of late. I think it's very strong. So the nice thing is you can get that hallucinated Phoenix out really nice and early, and you can see exactly what's happening on the other side of the map. So in this particular case, it will be some sort of medevac drop shenanigans. That's at the very least what Hero knows right now. It could still be, well, Hellions, it could still be Marines, it can still be Widow Mines. There's a bunch of variety. He doesn't really know exactly what flavor of Terran aggression it's going to be, but we can of course continue scouting as well with the hallucination, and apparently he's feeling like he can get away with a good old Stargate follow-up. So rather than going into Blink Stalker, we're gonna go into real Phoenixes too. This is a very defensive style. At least for the first few minutes when you get the Phoenixes out, you don't really get to be aggressive. So indeed it is going to be Marines together with some Widow Mines. Hero doesn't know what's inside of the plane, but he knows it's coming. A couple Stalkers here to try and soften this up. Trying to prevent this medevac from unloading. And so far, exactly what you're hoping for as Protoss. These Phoenixes are real, and they, of course, they will deal damage. We should maybe lift up some of those units, too. Yep. Look at those Phoenixes. They're too cool. They're like the cool guys in the movies, holding their guns sideways. They didn't even look at the dudes they were lifting. Bro, do you even lift? I mean, this is a disaster now, ByuN. This is what the kids call copium. This is no. We can't, no. ByuN's like, but in the previous game, everything went perfect. Okay, well, they have no money to lift. No energy, that is. Let's see. That now suddenly makes this game a whole lot different, though. Because normally with Phoenixes, it's difficult to be the aggressor. Hero's gonna follow this up now with good old Twilight Council and then also a third Nexus. So rather than transitioning into the more conventional Colossus follow-up, looks to me like we're gonna be playing a ground-based army with low-tech units instead. He's gonna turn into the Gateway Man. AKA the very Zergy approach that Protoss players are fond of. Okay. And now suddenly, we're scaling in this game heavily in favor of Protoss. Now, it's certainly still throwable. And I wouldn't call this advantage as significant as the one that ByuN had at this point in the game in the previous match, but this is now looking like a heavy advantage for Protoss, although obviously still a lot of frustrating things that Terran can throw at you. This is one of those moves that ByuN consistently makes. So imagine you're going up as a Terran player against somebody who is building Phoenixes, and you've seen the Phoenixes. Why in the world would you make a Raven and go across the map? It just... Phoenixes are very quick. They obviously get produced continuously. Ravens are expensive. You don't get a ton of value out of them, but ByuN is like, no, excellent. Perfect opportunity to be doing some Raven harassment. There's always a chance, I guess, that the units aren't home. Well, in this case, they weren't home. It's still very manageable. ByuN's going for an attack before Stimpack and Combat Shields. This is a very dangerous push. He's bringing some SCVs to the party as well. Hallucinated Immortal. Dude, I am such a fan of the Sentry First builds. They're so much fun. Siege Tank's now sieging up way in the back because he believes he's going up against the Colossus follow-up. In the meantime, the Phoenixes are lifting up whatever they can. A couple of Widow Mines, Marauder. Sure, why not? A couple of Force Fields over here, though, doing quite well, too. And I love this, because it doesn't make any sense to have it Immortal and then suddenly charge. So ByuN decided to go and move his units a little bit further forward than he would have normally. Dude, I'm telling you guys, Sentry First builds, one of the coolest things ever, even though it's pretty lame. Hallucinated Void Race? I mean, I think at this point we're getting a little bit overeager. You can still use them, I guess, for vision and maybe have the Marines gun something else down. We're just hallucinating everything. The entire army is fake. This is just like that Hawk versus Indra game from 2010. Anybody? No? Just... oh well. You do realize that Void Ray was Halush. That's a very long time ago. You remember that? Massive shout out to you. Fellow old person. Nice to have you here. Just like these gamers, by the way. Both Hero and ByuN definitely above the age of 30. A little bit slower on the keeper. Well, actually, they're not very slow on the keeper. Never mind. No, they're very fast. But I would appreciate it if you would take one of your old fingers and hit the like button real quick. That would be... Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. Storm, coming up on the back of this. Nothing quite like getting your viewers to hit the like button than by insulting them first. I believe I'm really starting to get the hang of this YouTube thing. Step 1, insult your viewers. Step 2, ask something from them. Surely this will work. Anyway, it's going to be Templar with Storm on the back of this. Hero is going to be presenting the weather forecast on Whispers of Gold for later today. Spoiler alert, it's going to be stormy weather. We do see Ghost on the back of this too right now for ByuN. He'll be trying to attempt that third Nexus here, or Command Center rather, in just a moment. I mean, it's still building right now. It's all a little slow. Generally, Terrans don't really go for that until their third base is up and going, but you kind of need to do something. Against both, well, the Mass Zealot, and then also the Phoenixes, and then obviously the High Templar and the Archons. Everything Protoss here. Ghosts are amazing. So he's transitioning to it a little bit earlier. Keep in mind, he still has a massive army. His economy is just not quite there compared to that of the Protoss. This is still a very narrow defense, though, for Hero, and he's going to need some good storms. Like this! Oh! Not bad. Oh, look at them hugging. Can we get another storm? Yep. I mean, that one was a... Yeah, sure. That one's better. High Templar are everywhere. Still, though, very... Yeah, dicey defense. So we have all the fancy tools, but none of the meat. You know? Like, this is... This is just ice cream. There's no meat. There's no potatoes. No vegetables. Now, I know some people like dessert more than they like... I mean, that's me too, but... You should probably... You know when your mom told you to eat your veggies? She was probably right. Still, though, Hero did have a little bit of bulk, as he warped in some reinforcements too. Big EMP there, but still enough energy for one storm. ByuN desperately trying to hold on here, but yeah, without him being able to win this fight, he's not going to be able to secure a third base. And in the meantime, Hero already has his fourth up. Okay, and that means that we've got ourselves a series. El Dorado is going to be the third game in this best of 5, and the score is currently 1-1. Excellent game number 1 for Mr. ByuN. Excellent game 2 for Hero. It all comes down to the very first exchange, it seems. The better the very first interactions go, generally the better the game turns out. And this is actually one of the things, whenever I've done any StarCraft coaching, right now I'm actually not coaching anybody, but I've done loads and loads of coaching over the last decade or so. And one of the things that, well, has always been a main focus is just nailing the first 5 minutes of a game. It sounds boring, it sounds lame, but one of the best things you can do if you want to improve in StarCraft is open up a custom game, play against the very easy AI, and perfect the first 5 minutes of a game without having an opponent. It sounds silly, but just the amount of marginal gains that you can have, just setting up, like say you're a Terran player, just setting up until the point that you finish up Stimpak, Combat Shields, +1 infantry weapons. Being able to dream that and to be able to just execute that without ever having to think about it is absolutely massive. It's the same for Protoss, it's the same for Zerg. Playing against opponents is a lot of fun, though. I mean, it's the advice I've given people many times, but I haven't actually personally played against very easy AI. Well, I did so a little bit at the very beginning when I first started playing StarCraft, but a lot of people get very tilted when they lose. I've never really minded losing that much. Although, to be fair, I used to tilt more when I was younger. Yeah, again, me being old. I mean, I'm the whopping age of 32! Anyways, it's I used to get more frustrated back in the day. It is what it is. I remember even, I'm not proud of this, I remember I even like chatted back to other opponents, and you know, whenever they would try to taunt me, you know how like you have those guys on the ladder where you're losing the game and they start taunting you in the in-game chat? I would never talk back to that anymore in 2025. But I remember doing that back in the day and just getting angrier which is exactly what they were trying to achieve. All right, let's see. It's going to be a push here from ByuN. Cyclone, Siege Tank, Medevac, 10 Marines. We've got a whole lot of stuff. I mean, not everything here is across the map. The Siege Tank just popped out. Ooh, a couple of Adepts here get intercepted. Not ideal here for Hero whatsoever. Nice catch, of course, by ByuN. Third Nexus coming up. Blink is done, though. And this is where Hero is extremely potent. He's also going for a quick Immortal follow-up. Getting the Immortal out here would be phenomenal, but we've got a nice little cluster of structures here, and that is going to be an easy pick-off for ByuN. Well, in the meantime, though, those Adepts, not very adept at killing Siege Tanks. They're... Oh, really? We're gonna repair it back up? Okay, anyways. Not very good at killing Siege Tanks, but they can still deal some damage over time. A Mule here has been dropped down to try and repair that Siege Tank back up. Cybercore in a world of trouble. Immortal production, however, does proceed again. Keep in mind now, without the Cybercore, Hero cannot make any sort of Stalker. So he may have made the Blink research, but he can't currently produce Stalkers, meaning that he's gonna have to clean this up real quick, because otherwise he's in a world of trouble, and he may just barely have enough. I mean, it's a messy, messy defense. Not really what he's hoping for. The Marines still remain. All of the expensive Terran units at least are gone. Immortal now walks to the safety of the shield battery. Stalker does indeed get picked off there too, because obviously you can only repair one thing at a time. And because ByuN dropped his Mule, I actually think this is okay for Hero. Mules are very worthwhile when Terran goes for a 2-base push like this. They give you a ton of money. It's effectively like another, what, 300 minerals or so down the drain here for Terran? Yeah. And it means that this game is really not that bad for Hero now. He's got a third Nexus on the back of this. He's got himself that, well, Cybercore obviously rebuilt in the most questionable of positions ever. Hero, what the... What? Hero. I mean, a worse spot would be right over here. This would be arguably worse, but this is certainly one of the worst positions you could be building a Cybercore in. Anyway. It's one of those spots, right, where the goal was just to get a Cybercore down as quickly as possible, because he was managing a million things at once. Now, this is always something that I've been intrigued by. So 2 workers go on the right side of the mineral thing, or of the Cybercore thing, rather. The other gas probe is going on the left. Why? So the pathing does not get reset, I guess, every time they go through the structure, or it does, and they just find a different way home? It's a little funky. I don't think his mining is really interrupted much. There's a small little delay here. Yeah, it's a little bit finicky, but it's not as bad as you would imagine. Maybe like a few percentage points of efficiency lost. Little party going on over here on El Dorado, underneath the Great Deku tree. Oh my god. Oh geez, they have a Marine corpse right over here. I have never seen this before. What in the world? They're feasting on the corpse of Jimmy. Ewoks are vicious. I knew they weren't to be trusted. ByuN also flying his medevac over that a couple of times. Trying to make sure that he knows what he's seen. Observer following him around, though. Third command center right now on the back of this, and we've got ourselves a Colossus coming up. Stalkers on the watchtower. We'll be getting rid of the Viking that was previously holding it. Yeah, we're gonna start working on the golden mineral fields here in the back of the Terran's, or the Protoss' main, rather. I mean, technically, it's also the back of the Terran's main. A little further away, though. Maybe Hero treats the entire map like his main base. I've seen him do that before, where he's building everything on the other side of the map, but this is a much more defensive approach. So he's setting up loads of vision all around the map. A medevac did still slip through the cracks, but this one seems to be easily cleaned up. No real damage done. Medevac is gonna go down too, I would imagine. Wow. Somehow this medevac lives. He's sending it back to the rest of the army. ByuN is going for a very committed push, and again, he does have an army advantage. He's just playing such low-tier units against a proper Protoss army that Colossus having a grand old time. 3 Immortals in the max too, or actually now only 2. But it is still going to be a Protoss army that packs a punch. And ByuN is just not really carving much of a path there, right? Like, he wants to deal critical amounts of damage, but a trading of the army, or trading of the armies, rather, will obviously be an advantage here for our Protoss player, because he's got more income. He's even thinking about now building a 4th Nexus, close to the Ewoks that are using Jimmy as a drum. Look at this guy. Hell yeah, dude. He's having a good time. All right, ByuN needs to get something done. He needs to get something done soon, because this is going to spiral out of control. He's basically just playing the most basic units, and while it's powerful, he's not getting any additional upgrades. He's got himself a 3rd base, but only just barely. We don't have a Ghost Academy, no 4th CC, no Liberator potential here. We have very little going on. If he keeps playing the way that he is right now, he's going to slowly fizzle out over the next couple minutes. Now, at this point, it doesn't look that dire. It's just that he doesn't have that great of an answer. And honestly, Hero doesn't need to do that much. Hero can just kind of chill over here and hang out and maybe, yeah, you know, join the Ewoks for a bit. I can't believe I've never seen that before. Maybe I have seen it before, but I just never really looked at it in depth. Look at the Colossus. Everybody's looking at it today. Colossus is like, hello. How you doing? It's like my cat's trying to observe something. You don't have to push your face straight into it. Maybe it's a Colossus that needs glasses. I don't know. All right, couple Vikings going around. This is ByuN thinking, yo, normally Hero does this thing where he's like, you know, sending random prisms around and, you know, going around the map, and I get like free pickings and all that. This is Hero playing rock solid. Yeah, we're gonna even add on more Colossi. What? Yo, he's adding on his 5th Colossus. The norm is to make 3. 5, believe it or not, is a bigger number than 3, I think. Because, well, I mean, I still have 5 fingers, but if he makes 1 more, I don't know where to go anymore. We will go into a 2nd Cybercore, or 2nd Robo, rather. I mean, 2nd Cybercore was already built a while ago. I'm assuming we will be building up into Disruptors, but I would like to see 20 Colossi now. Probably not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen, but it'd be fun. All right, new command center building. 2-2 has finally begun. So ByuN was anticipating a Protoss all-in, and now that it's not coming, I mean, maybe he will push now, but this is effectively a maxed out push here by Hero. We're 1 warping away from this being a maxed out Protoss army. Now that he is finally starting up 2-2, that's when Protoss goes across the map. How many Vikings are we on? Just 6. It's time to shoot the lasers. Bzz, bzz. Everybody's got a plan until the lasers hit you in the face. I mean, you guys should really be retargeted. We should certainly be microing the Colossus. Ultimately, though, ByuN is looking at that army, and he doesn't give us the satisfaction, but, I mean, apparently, that's kind of funny. When the game ended, Hero apparently went back into the replay to finish the job. Yeah. So he actually continued fighting for a little bit longer. He even warped in some reinforcements there before leaving the game. All right, GG. And that means that we now have a match point here for Hero. Playing some stellar games, I gotta say. A tough game number 1, but again, one that I think was quite forgivable, right? Like the fact that he lost game number 1, I mean, it looked bad because he honestly was just getting, destroyed. There's really no nicer way to put it, but it's just because you make a slip up early, you lose the first Oracle, and everything comes crumbling down really quick. I don't think Hero was too tilted after that. Like, he's stuck in the game for a long time. But I'm pretty sure mentally he already, you know, gave that game up as a loss. But you may as well go ahead and test the waters, because ultimately, there's still an opponent that will have to try his very best to obtain the victory, and there's always a chance that they slip up and make a mistake. Well, ByuN wants to play a similar game as he did in game number 1. So we are going to be building up, at least we're going to attempt building up a Cybercore here. Or, what? Everything's a Cybercore today. I have called Robo Facilities Cybercores, Gateway Cybercores, and now apparently the Engineering Bay is a Cybercore too. Except when I wanted to mention a Cybercore, I called it something else. Sick, Loco. Well done. Professional. Alright, well, this is now not as frustrating to play against. Bunch of probes got pulled, but of course you can still build the Nexus at a reasonable time, and you should be going into the pylon and everything else here in a moment too. Cybercore already building inside of the main base, so there is a bit of a disconnect here. Normally you go into the timing a little different. The Cybercore and the Nexus are a bit more closer together. But ultimately, like closer together as far as the time started goes, but ultimately, this is something that Hero can easily, well, transition away from. ByuN in the meantime though, building up a factory at the bottom of the map. This is a bit risky. Now, keep in mind that the factory is important, especially if you want to defend against, for example, Blink Stalker or something along those lines. Proxying the factory is nice and all, but it's a commitment that can certainly be dangerous. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan here is for the Terran. There's a couple different flavors of cheese that he could go for. Twilight Council now here for Hero, so he will indeed be building Blinky Boys. And Blinky Boys are extremely nice when you go up against somebody who doesn't have siege tanks at home. Gateway coming up here to narrow the wall off here just a bit. Yeah, so we're gonna go Hellions into a medevac drop, it seems. So the idea is to hide this all, and then to load the medevac up and get some damage done. Now, it does take 3 of those Hellions for it to be effective, so all of this will line up reasonably well. But obviously, if Protoss sniffs this out, right, like if he sees it coming, this is the easiest defense of his life. Either he goes down there and he shuts it down right now. Not gonna happen because he doesn't know. He can't see that much, so he hasn't seen the factory, but he doesn't really know exactly what's happening. Maybe it's over here. Could be anywhere. But if he just puts a couple Stalkers on the perimeter, life is going to be A-okay. So, medevac is building. 3rd Hellion coming up right now, too. Adepts in the meantime on the other side of the map. He might just notice that something is lacking, but again, it could just be a Widowmine drop or a Cyclone follow-up. Could be a million things. Normally, though, you would be starting to see the Cyclone about now. 2 Jimmies going down just like that. One of them losing the arm. Here's the Hellion drop, though. Okay. Let's do a first-person view. This is the first-person view of Hero. This is when he sees the Hellions going in. Crisis mode has been activated. Trying his best to body block here against these units. 5 probes, very acceptable. Sends the probes back into the main base, or at least he attempts to. Decides to turn around and fight them instead. It's a little clumsy. It's not the perfect defense. But I think that was good enough. You just don't have a lot of time to react. And that was expensive, ultimately, there, for the Terran player to execute. He does still have 2 of the Hellions inside of the medevac. ByuN hoping for his opponent to line those units up for him. Gets a few more. Okay. 11 probes is good, but you do have to now defend against this follow-up push by Protoss without any siege tanks. And this is real dangerous right now. There is a prism. It's coming across the map right here. It's bringing in the reinforcements now too, since there's not that much anymore for Terran to be aggressive with. Probes alone will clean that up. Okay, we use the Adept for high ground vision. Valiant sacrifice there by the Adept to try and get the Stalkers into the main base. Stimpack is a long ways off. Obviously, we just don't have any factory production over here at all. Now the Prism is nearby, and it's going to be able to start juggling some of these units as well. If Hero is paying attention to it, then he should be able to keep all of this alive with ease. Decides to now ferry some of those troops inside of the main base. He's going to even, well, warp in some reinforcements right over here, too. In the meantime, there is continued aggression. I guess that must be a Liberator. Oh my god, it certainly is. This is actually a very well done by ByuN, who kills 8 probes on the back of this. While I was very focused on the Stalker micro, apparently so was Hero. A Widowmine walks into the mineral line now too. Hero really needs to be multitasking a little bit better, but he believes it does not matter as long as he can win the game with this army that he's got here right now. It's a risky move, but it works out. GG. I mean, that series was really quick, especially as far as the finals goes. Let's do another match. Spawning right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces. Guess what? It's not on a Hero. Once more, joined by the Zealot on the main Nexus. Not entirely sure why he's replaced his own face with a Zealot instead, although, I mean, the Carbon Zealot is very cute. His opponent, though, down in the bottom left, playing with the blue Protoss pieces. We're looking at Classic's main Nexus. Now, I heard that this particular series is a bit of a banger. And then I also heard that it was a Protoss versus Protoss. So I figured I wanted to go ahead and have a look at it. But I also figured that I'll just kind of mix it in, you know, at the end of this. After the finals, we'll have a look at this series too. Just because mirror matchups are good for you as well. Yep. I once more have to mash in some Protoss versus Protoss into your potatoes. So maybe you will still get some vegetables in too, you know. It's important for overall health to look at a mirror matchup as well from time to time. So, Hero, what are we going to do? We're building up a proxy. At least that's the vibe I'm getting here. With this probe at the bottom of the map. Now, he didn't build a second pylon yet. Generally, we built it already. So we are going to indeed put it over here at the bottom of the map. Problem for him is that Classic has got a probe out onto the map too, and he's checking. In this matchup, you always want to be counting the amount of probes that you want to count the amount of probes that your opponent has, but also certainly the pylons to see roughly how many they've got. So the probe count here is looking normal. Second pylon, however, is missing. And when you see your opponent is still producing, you know that something there is not quite right. Problem though for Classic is that it's quite common actually to use your scouting worker to build a proxy pylon just anywhere. Even the second pylon, even if you're not planning on cheesing, just to confuse the opponent a bit and maybe to make them play a bit more defensive than they ordinarily would want to. Stargate, however, is going to be proxied here for Hero. So he's faking a proxy whilst then actually going for a proxy. It's a 200 IQ play. If I have to explain it, you know, your brain is just not big enough. You have to be proxying the proxy in order to make your opponent believe that you're going for a proxy, but you actually make it so obvious that the opponent therefore doesn't believe you're going for a proxy anymore. And this is the fate of many mirror matchups in StarCraft 2. A lot of it comes down to who is dumber. Are you dumber than me right now, or am I dumber than you? That's how a lot of mirror matchups tend to get decided in StarCraft. So we do have Classic now walling himself in to not allow any scouting, as he is also the one going for a Stargate inside of the main base. Now, he's decided that he doesn't quite trust the current state of things, as there is an Adept now slipping through the cracks, suboptimal for sure. He decides to go for a Void Ray. He's now blocking this location here, trying to see if maybe he can hold position and indeed allow those Adepts in red to slip through the cracks as well. We did already have the units there inside of the main base of the Protoss player in red. They already got cleaned up. Oracle right now on the back of this, though. There is a Void Ray as well as a Stalker. I don't think you want to fly in. Nope. Oh, do we? Oh, this is so risky by Hero, but he actually gets rewarded. I mean, he gets rewarded in the sense that he gets 3 probes. Oracle obviously a bit quicker. 7 workers now in total, though, is not bad at all. 8, actually, because the scouting worker apparently also fell. Okay. Twilight Council on the back of this. Classic, by the way, not in the worst of positions, but certainly not at an advantage. Especially now with another Oracle swooping in, getting a handful more workers. 3, 4. Sacrificing the Oracle there. The first one is still available. He's hoping to kill probes on the low ground. Turns out he hasn't got anything to kill. Well, that's one way, I guess, to keep your workers alive if you don't have any. Alright. Classic now has found the proxy. But I don't believe that this is really going to be something that Hero was anticipating on using anytime soon. I mean, maybe you can use it as a warp-in pylon, but he wasn't planning on making any additional Stargate units anyway. He has still got the first one, so yeah. Shield battery not yet available here. So this is actually going from bad to worse for Classic. Remember that series I cast a few weeks ago? Featuring Classic as well, where Classic was an absolute punching bag? I don't remember exactly who the opponent was anymore. But Classic just couldn't get anything going. Like, every game was just a disaster for him. Let's see if this situation is going to be a little bit better. I don't remember who his opponent was, I just remember the pain. Well, right now, we do have a committed all-in. Classic has an awful lot of units. Obviously, Prismatic Alignment on a Void Ray is sick. Probes, in the meantime, trying their very best, too. Ultimately, though, reinforcing Stalkers are out, and the probes put in enough damage for Classic to tap out. Next up, we find ourselves in Next up, we find ourselves on Whispers of Gold. Second game in this best of 3. That previous game, though, reminded me a lot of that previous classic series that I cast, where he just can't get up, you know? Like, every time, I kind of picture this like a boxer, you know, but he doesn't get the full countdown, and he gets back up before the referee is done counting, and he gets back up, but he's kind of unsteady on his, and he gets punched to the face again, and he just keeps getting back up, but he just doesn't get anything going. Come on, Classic. You have won many championships before. Classic is one... Oh, a little probe kiss. You love to see that. Protoss is... Or Classic, rather, is one of the legendary Protoss players in StarCraft 2. He just hasn't impressed me too much as of late. Well, apparently we're going to be going for a single gate opener here for the both of them. In PvP, generally, you make the hole a little bit bigger, so you can fit a pylon in there. You can just jam it straight in there and make sure that any adept run by or any aggression early on can be pushed back pretty easily. It's funny, actually, in the early days of StarCraft, they would always wall similarly in every matchup, where, for example, a zealot on hold position could just stop you, but in this matchup, if you have a few adepts slipping through the cracks, that can tend to be the end of the match. Double gateways, though, for the both of them for now. Cybercore now obviously also building, so we will be able to go into either double adept. I guess we can go double sentry too, but generally double adept or double stalker production here in just a second. Where's the second pylon? Second pylon number 1's right over there. Second pylon number 2 right over here too. So at least this time around, Classic knows that his opponent is not doing anything fishy. Now, believe it or not, Classic is a very classical Protoss player. I know. He's not really a cheeser. He's very much so somebody who likes to just play the slower, more straightforward macro games. That's how he's been playing for a decade and a half, and he's generally very good at it. Hero is, of course, a bit of a prick. Taking a page out of ByuN's book from the previous series. Now building a pylon here rather than an engineering bay, but Classic, who was just about ready to build a nexus on the low ground, does not quite get the job done. Sentry's now coming up. Oh, he actually lets it finish, too. Classic. Forced to make the walk of shame back home. He was already getting rid of the adepts, assuming this was going to get cancelled. Yeah, Hero is such a bully. Being a bully in a StarCraft match, generally, though, is a good thing. That's one of the things that StarCraft really taught me. Being a nice guy, not worth it, dude. What you gotta be is a bully. Yeah. Now, it's been centuries on the back of this as well. And obviously that means we can start sending hallucinations around the map again. An adept slipping through the cracks. Not ideal, but a force field, and then some well-positioned units are gonna be able to make quick work of it. A robo facility will be the weapon of choice, whereas in the meantime on the other side of the map, Hero is building up the Twilight Council. Once upon a time, actually, this matchup was very rock, paper, scissors. This is early days StarCraft 2. Adepts actually slip in. Get a bit of work, a little bit of damage done here, but you would have, broadly speaking, 3 different builds in this matchup. So you would either have, well, I guess 4. You would either have like a 4-gate, so just full aggression right from the very start. You would have a robo facility. Robo facility usually in combination with immortal attacks. Then you would have Blink Stalker builds, and then obviously also Stargate openers. And Blink Stalker would counter Stargate, Stargate would counter Robo, and Robo would counter Blink Stalker. So you would have this interesting triangle where nobody could really scout one another, but also you would have to make a literal rock, paper, scissors decision as to what you want to do. Obviously, it was real-time rock, paper. It gets a little confusing. Anyways, we've got an interesting dance here. A lot of sentries available. This is... If we engage... I was going to say, this is a very strange spot. If we decide to fight here, there will be force fields for days and nothing that really deals damage. Prism coming up here, though. This has now been scouted by Classic. He knows that it's a robo facility built. And in the meantime, Classic is going to be seeing too, or Hero rather has scouted it. Classic is now going to see on the other side of the map that it is indeed going to be Blinky Boys. Third Nexus on the back of this. Sentry's waiting on the high ground. With the most menacing tickle beam attack of any unit in all of StarCraft. They deal more damage than High Templar do with their auto attacks, but only just barely. Actually, that's not entirely true. In this matchup, they actually deal quite a bit of damage. A couple years ago, the Sentry got buffed, and it now deals more damage against units with shields. AKA Protoss units. It's now better at killing its friends. How nice is that? Sick boost there for Protoss players across the board. It did definitely change this matchup a little bit. It makes the Sentry a lot more common now. Especially, obviously, also with the energy recharge and the hallucinations and all that. You can get a lot of value early on. Classic trying to get some damage down here inside of the main base using the Prism and the 2 Adepts. Hero, though, just trying to build up his economy. So far, this has been unscouted. A little bit risky by Hero, but I think he's gonna be able to get away with it. Problem for him, he's going up against Immortal play now, and he does have Stalkers of his own. It's going to be Stalker Sentry versus Immortal Sentry, with a few leftover Stalkers from the earlier stages. There's also that Prism. Prism still hanging out on the other side of the map, mostly just to create some urgency here in Hero's game plan, as the Adepts are going to start putting in some damage. Oh, we should see a lot of Force Fields. Yeah. Everybody gets Force Fielded. Guardian Shields, Force Fields, nothing here can fight. 6 probes in the meantime, though, have gone down on the other side of the map, and that makes this a really good position for Classic. Keep in mind, though, that Classic does not have a 3rd Nexus. Absolute clown fiesta of an engagement there. We just missed the music. Okay, ultimately, though, the force fields run out. And it means that Classic now has got himself a really nice army. Now, he is gonna go into the good old Glaives. Weird follow-up in the other matchups. We don't really see this all too often in Protoss versus Terran or Protoss versus Zerg, at least not past the early game. But in the mid game, it's very strong in PvP if you go up against the right army, because the Adepts can deal a ton of damage really quickly. The only problem is, of course, that they are very committed, and they generally do still fall off the longer that the game goes on. Immortal here against low HP units. Having a grand old time, dude. It's the perfect time to be an Immortal. In the meantime, though, there's aggression over at the front. Adept shading around inside of the natural. Stalker over there, indeed, does go down. And these Stalkers now inside of the, well, on the other side of the map over at the 3rd base of Classic, they have to go and return back home, too. Classic wants to preserve a few of those Adepts if possible. A little funky to be recalling Adepts. Maybe that'll make it a bit more obvious what the plan is here for Hero, but is there really anything he can easily do about it? Adepts are going to be able to finish up their attack speed upgrade in a moment. Charge, however, is almost done here for Hero. 3rd Nexus coming up for Classic, but it's obviously much later than the Protoss player in red. And despite Hero losing a lot of workers, he's still okay. Push over here at the front. A lot of Immortals dancing away. Sentries get targeted down. Not bad whatsoever. Adepts, in the meantime, get unloaded inside of the main base of Hero 2. Okay. I believe we are witnessing something that I haven't seen the last 7 series that I have casted Classic. Okay, maybe a slight exaggeration, but Classic is in a pretty nice position at this stage in the game. Certainly not one where the game is super comfortable, but he's got 4 Immortals. And 4 Immortals just hits so freaking hard. Hero is effectively committed to an all-in now. He's got a good eco, but not as amazing as it was a couple minutes ago. And those Adepts, they can get rid of the Zealots really rapidly. And if the Immortals then are left over, this should be very manageable. Let's see. Immortals get microed back. Additional Adepts get warped in too. Zealots just melt. Yep, easy win here for Classic in this particular engagement. In the meantime, he's still being a bit of a bully in the back of all of the bases. Now, the Prism ultimately falls, but that one already got a lot of damage done. Adepts now actually try to chase down some of those retreating units too. The Zealots, indeed, well, they just don't achieve too much. All right, Classic. I think even I could win from this position. All you need to do is a tech move. I can do that. I can do that. I'm not even sure if you need to split up your troops, but, you know. I feel like splitting up the troops here is actually risky. I think you just keep everything in one big ball and you go around. It's a bit funky to be killing static defense like that. All right, just hit the opponent's third base instead. We've just done a small donation of 17 adepts. Bit unnecessary, and it's making this game dangerous. But I still just don't see an army here for Hero, and reinforcing troops have now shown up for Classic. A lot of force fields, man. Mass force fields is always the way to go. Yeah, reinforcing adepts though, putting in so much work. 23, 26 probes have gone down. There's no fourth nexus or anything along those lines. GG, Classic gets a point on the board. Alrighty, and that means that the final game of this best of 3 series is going to be decided on this map, and it is called Ultra Love. Now, I fast forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game. Both players opting to go for the low ground wall off, and both players opting to go for the Stargate. Okay. So, in the previous game, we were going mass force field. In this game, so this immediately gets scouted by Classic, and Hero is going to see this too. There's still a few ways you can prevent a situation that leads to mass phoenixes. But there is a real chance that both guys will just start making phoenixes here. And Phoenix Wars are one of the strangest things in StarCraft 2, if you've never seen it before. Is that what we're doing? Before I start describing it, I think it is. It's the only thing that makes sense here. Yep, both players make phoenixes now. Phoenixes move and shoot at the same time. And obviously, they move at the same speed as other phoenixes, right? So, since they can move and shoot at the same time, if you have the phoenix advantage, you can chase your opponent down until the game ends. So, the way you get an advantage with phoenixes, a couple different ways. First off, sheer phoenix numbers. If you can get more phoenixes than your opponent, that's obviously better. If you have 20 phoenixes and your opponent has 16, you will not win the fight with like 4 left over. You will win the fight with like 14 left over. It is that extreme. More phoenixes equals better. There's a ranged upgrade for phoenixes. It's in the fleet beacon, so we generally do see it, but a little bit later on into the game, when players can actually afford it. Usually, yep, second Stargates are going to be the weapon of choice here initially. And then lastly, obviously, you can get cybernetics core upgrades too. But this is generally whenever we have Phoenix Wars, it's players trying to not engage one another until it all happens all at the same time in like 5 seconds. So it's very likely we're going to be tiptoeing around one another, or at least try to get a bit of damage done, but most of the time you don't really want to engage. So the only way to disengage is if both players go their separate way. If one player wants to continue fighting, you can just chase the opponent's phoenixes down. And it's a very strange spot to be in. Now, one common thing to do is to clump up your phoenixes to make it hard. Ooh, for the opponent to guess what's going on. Good targeting there. One phoenix falls, second phoenix. Both players losing quite a bit of damage. Reinforcing here is Hero, though, and that is really nice for him. Being slightly closer to the battle. Okay, we have 2 more falling. We have some early game skirmishes. Classic, though, losing 1 more phoenix than his opponent. And that's honestly a massive deal. Because up until this point, they had the exact same number of phoenixes. Now, suddenly, Hero is going to be able to lead that charge. Of course, they will both continuously produce phoenixes. No easy way to transition out of this. Defender's advantage, by the way, in the sense that your units just spawn closer to the battle. So Hero is going to pull in, and I'm assuming we're going to immediately retreat. Yeah. He doesn't want to be here when the new phoenixes spawn, because that's when he's going to have a deficit. Third Nexus coming up here for Classic. Building it before his opponents. Hero is going to be building his own in just a second. Once more, another fight. I don't really think you want to be fighting here if you're Classic, though. Yep, no way, dude. Nice targeting here by Hero. And he is going to once more reset the Phoenix numbers. Now sitting on top of the production. It's a little overly aggressive, but I think it's just barely working out for him. Now he's finding himself with a 4 Phoenix advantage. Great control here by Hero. Yeah, he's just camping it now. So he is just going to sit here and snipe any reinforcing Phoenix. Phoenix Wars, it's one of the dumbest things in all of StarCraft. I love watching it occasionally, but it's so strange. This is a very much so an acquired taste. If you enjoy this, like myself, you are also, yeah, not in the majority. But it's, we have a couple of shield batteries building here. Yeah, it's not going to happen, GG. All right, Hero obtains the victory. 2-1 over Classic and 3-1 over ByuN.